So this is my 2007 Lincoln Town Car I bought a couple years ago, and I'm just now kind of getting it on the road. There have been some problems with it here and there, more problems than I care to deal with, but one of the super big annoyances that I've experienced in this car, and it's only got 80,000 miles. I'm not sure how to switch to show that, but it's only got 80,000 miles on it. No, 70,000, I think. Anyway, one of the biggest annoyances on this car is that you'll start it up, turn the AC on, and the blow will switch from defrost to panel to floor to defrost. It just goes all over the place no matter what you select here. Okay, now I'm actually videoing this video after I've done the hack, so upcoming you'll see the hack of what I did. But there are 5 what are called actuators in these cars, AC actuators. Okay, there's a panel defrost actuator which switches a door electronically behind the dash here to direct the air either to come out the panel or to come out the dashboard. And then there's a floor actuator that then takes the air and sends it down to the floor outlets. Okay, and what happens is these 5 actuators, okay, those are 2 of the actuators. Let me go on and tell you about the third actuator. The third actuator is recirculation. Okay, and that's to bring in outside air or just recirculate the inside air. That actuator actually replaced already, and that's, you got to take the glove box out, and it's back in there, and it's doable. It's a little bit of a pain to get to some of the screws, but it's doable. Then there's 2 more actuators. It's for the temperature, for the driver's side temperature and the passenger side temperature, and those are up underneath here. I haven't messed with those yet. They're apparently accessible fairly easily. The driver's side one seems to be on its way out. I may have to deal with that sometime in the future. So there's 5 actuators. There's panel defrost, there's floor, recirculation, left temperature, and right temperature. 5, okay? The 2 that are not accessible unless you take the dashboard out are these 2, okay? And these 2 are the ones I'm having the most trouble with. You have to literally take the dashboard and lean it back this way so that you can get to the plenum, and apparently those 2 actuators are underneath way in the back somehow. I'm not taking the dashboard out. I did that in my 97 Crown Vic. It was a nightmare. I'm mechanically inclined, but not to do all that work. So the hack that I'm about to show you solves the panel defrost floor constant switching, because what happens in these actuators, they not only run a motor that turns a shaft that moves a door that either opens or closes a passage, right, or diverts air from one passage to another, but there's a sensor in there that also, as it's turning, it senses where it is in the turn. Okay, because not always is the door going to be always shut this way or shut that way. It might need to be in the middle, so the sensor can tell it's in the middle or not, you know, if it's in the middle or at one end or the other. What happens is those sensors go bad. They're variable resistors that are on a board, kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but they go bad, and so what happens is it keeps telling the EATC unit, which is this air conditioning brain, which is this thing, it keeps telling it that it's in the wrong position. The brain sends a signal to make the motor move a different direction, and you get all this wackiness where the air is constantly changing where it's coming from. Also, somebody mentioned if you go over a bump, the sensor might kick in, right? And then the brain, the ATC says, oh, well, it's over here, so I got to move it back, you know, and it moves and changes where the air comes out. So right now, I've already done the hack. I'm about to, I'll dub those videos in next. And I'm very happy with this hack. I got a good volume of air coming out the panel vents now, and it's cold, and there's no more hunting and goofiness with where the air comes out, depending on if there's bumps in the road or if I turn the car on or off or whatever. So I will now dub those videos in. Again, this is my 2007 Lincoln Town Car that I'm trying to get roadworthy, and it's roadworthy at this point. Very very nicely roadworthy. I still don't, this back window still is frozen up. It will not go down. Not going to worry about that. So here we go. I'll dub the rest of those videos in on the hack that I did for the air conditioning fix. Okay, so what I'm doing today is I'm bypassing the panel defrost door circuit and the floor door circuit for the AC, and it's because they're inconsistently working, and I got behind the EATC and I identified the right wiring to run the motor for the panel defrost motor or actuator, and I measured between the two before I applied power, 100 ohms. That's the motor resistance, I guess, and the floor actuator is 98 ohms with these two wires. And so right now I'm tapped into the panel defrost, these two, and I'm using a 9-volt battery to simply change the position. So when I reverse the polarity and I touch this, you'll see the meter go from 0 up. As it's changing, now it's blowing out of the defrost, and see how it hits a large value. Now I'm disconnecting it. It hit 0.4 amps. That's when it stopped its travel, so you know it's all the way on the other side towards defrost. So we'll do that again. We'll reverse polarity, and then we'll make it come out of the panel. And now at 0.4 amps, you know it stopped its travel, so it's fully towards panel. So that's what I'm going to do here. I know I didn't really explain this all that well, but I'm going to tap in. I'm going to put some extra, hook in some wires onto these that are going to come out, probably just be hidden, tucked up in here. But that's so that I can eventually, if I ever need to change a position, I can just hook a 9-volt battery to move those blend doors if needed, because I'm not tearing out this dash for that. And it's ridiculous. Every time I get in this car, it's either coming out of the floor. See, I've had to shove a bag up in the floor vent down there, and one over here. It's ridiculous. Every time I get in the car, I have to fiddle with the controls to get it to come out of the right vent. And now it's going to be permanently coming out of panel, again with override wires that I can hook a 9-volt battery to switch them if needed manually. So that's what we got going on today. Okay, so this is what I did. I soldered these two wires that come out underneath. Alright, they hook to here and here. Alright, and I've capped off these. And so basically that corresponds to my actuators, and I can control them now. I'll probably just bundle these up and shove them under the dash, but I can easily hook them to a 9-volt battery, or 12 volts is fine too, because that's what they run on. I would assume they run on 12 volts, but 9 volts will drive them. And I can change from panel to defrost with one of them, and then I can change from down to floor if I ever need to. But being in Florida, it's so hot, 95% of the time I'm going to be running panel. And I'm very happy with this hack. Right here I've just labeled these wires so I know easily what's what. While I'm in here, I was trying to figure out what this hole was for, and I found back here this sensor. It looks like a sensor. I don't know if it's a temperature sensor or what, but it's got just like almost like a plastic front on it. Oh no, you know what it says? Passive airbag. Okay, so that's an airbag indicator. It doesn't fit up in that hole anymore, so it doesn't click in or anything. So I thought for a minute it was some kind of temperature sensor, but that must be what this is here, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that has to do with the airbag. I'm not worried about that then. Yep. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've got my probes hooked to the floor motor wires and They're at 97 ohms for the floor motor. This is directly to the motor itself, according to the wiring diagram. And now I've hooked my leads to the panel defrost actuator, and that's at 99.6 ohms. So pretty close to my earlier measurements. Now, most likely I'm just going to leave these wires, again, bundle them up, throw them under the dash, but this gives me the opportunity to one day put some kind of little switch panel on here where I can press and hold, you know, a button, and it will switch, let's say, from panel to defrost, or I can push another button and it'll switch down to floor. Not that I ever plan on doing that, but I do have that opportunity now with leaving these wires out like this. And although I'll probably never do that, being that this is Florida, and I'm always 99% of the time I'm going to want panel ventilation over defrost and floor. I mean, I hardly ever used floor. Even if I need heat, it's still handy to come out of the panel. This panel was tricky to get off. In fact, it's not fully off. You got to put the gear lever all the way down, and first they say you got to take these two bolts out up here. They're 7mm bolts, not 8 or 9 like I thought. 7. But I got it backed off just enough so I could get the 4 screws out for the EATC, which is what this thing is called, the EATC module. And this was already cracked. This cracked a little bit. This is really flimsy trim, all of this, so you got to be real careful. But yeah. Now, one of the last things I'm doing is I'm doing an EATC diagnostic by hitting floor off and auto at the same time, and then it's going to start reading off codes. Now, obviously, for these two actuators, now that the wires are disconnected, it's going to read off codes for those being faulty. I just want to make sure the AC can return to normal operation after a diagnostic, since I've cut these wires now. You know, I just want to make sure to return to normal operation. Yeah, so I just did that diagnostic and it read off the 3 codes. 2 of which I'm sure are for these buried actuators. And again, the reason I'm doing this, and I may not have mentioned that in the video, but this whole dashboard has to come out to change out the panel defrost actuator and also the floor actuator. The whole dashboard has to come out and move forward. And I've done that. I did that in the 97 Crown Vic and it was a nightmare. I don't want to do that again. So being a Florida car, this is perfect to have it come out of panel all the time and then have this ability to override as needed with a 9-volt battery.